I have a lot of background noise, so if anybody wants to go ahead. Sorry.
So I guess we're just meeting for a review meeting. Is there any specific topic anybody's interested in going over tonight? All right, so if we don't have any questions about any particular issue, then maybe let's just briefly go over what each of our products or projects are. If we have an idea about what we're going to do, and then if there's anything that arises from that conversation, then we can use that as a jumping off point for review. And if not, then we'll wrap it up. So I guess I kind of showed mine last week, so there's really not a lot new. I can show it again, or I could do it now or at the end, or whatever you guys want to do. Somebody want to let me know what your preference is?
Go for it.
All right, right on. Okay, so I'm just going to jump in and share my screen. Okay, there's me. And let's go over here. Okay, so again, this is my code for the sample that was shared by Brother James this week. So I've got, this is my JavaScript for it, which is pretty long. It's going to get longer. Since we last met, I added some functionality to load levels from JSON files. And by the time I'm done with it, you'll be able to advance through a fixed set of levels that you have either in a folder, or what I also want to do is have them pull from an API so that those levels can be defined somewhere else and you can't manipulate them as easily. Although it is JavaScript and it's pretty easy to fiddle with. The HTML is pretty simple. We already went over, it's got the audio stuff. This is a sample of the JSON files. They're really simple. They just have the list of words, the level number, and then the name of the level, which I haven't coded the name in yet, but it'll get there. And then the CSS, which is just a really basic CSS file at this point. But that is going to get better too. Plans. So when this executes, go ahead and just have PHP server thing running locally, which makes it easy to launch this. So the balls are kind of bouncing around, and then when they run into each other, they stick. Still need to do some work on the physics on that. But I guess according to that announcement from Brother James, he's really emphasizing the JavaScript, or I'm sorry, the CSS side of it over the JavaScript or anything. So I will probably focus less on the functionality and more on the glitzy side of it. So yeah, so that's kind of where it's at. So if I click over here, I've got my word list. It's loading level 2 because that's where I left it off last time I used it. So it's saving to local storage now too. And then let's see. So if I go, see, do I have any of these words in here? No, I don't. Great. Yeah, I think I've got grape, right? So let's see if we can get one of them. So if I pop this, G, no, there's my R. R. E. Oh no, that wasn't a P. So I guess I'm kind of stuck. But you can maybe wait for one of them. Let's see what we get. No. Anyhow, So I think kind of one of the downsides to using Canvas is it is a little harder to debug because I can't just go to one of these elements and inspect it and then, you know, pop a letter in there that I actually want to use. So that's kind of a bummer. But anyway, that's pretty much my project. It's going to go through these levels, and then it's kind of what my son asked for, so that's what he's getting. Who's next? Or do you guys have a question? Any questions? No? No? No questions? All right. So if there's no questions, let's go to whoever's going to talk about the project next.
Okay, I guess I'll talk about mine.
Sweet.
So what I'm planning to do is make like an application about music. I kind of follow like Brooks' advice to use an API. And one of the APIs I'm thinking about using is Spotify's. And yeah, I had a question about that. So I know for the group meetings, we weren't allowed to use like, the custom libraries. But how about our personal projects? Do you think we can use custom libraries?
I don't think he is okay with custom libraries at any point. I think he still wants us to organically create our CSS transforms and transitions.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I kind of got that impression too, that even like, Bootstrap, jQuery, any shortcuts he wasn't happy with. But I mean, I guess if you had a specific need, you could ask him just, hey, what do you think about me using this, and see if he'll give you approval.
Yeah, y'all probably have to ask because part of using the Spotify's API, it uses Node.js.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I think that's to like talk with like their servers and get JSON information and things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what I was curious about. Other than that, I haven't really started it, so I can't show anything. But yeah, that was just like a question of mine for this project.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I would say if there's a demonstrable need to use something like that for a specific API, most of my classes have been pretty accommodating for things like that. But I guess it's really just a question of whether they're more interested in you interacting with a third party, or whether they're more interested with like you knowing the nuts and bolts of how to build a connection to a third party API. So yeah, you just have to ask them, I guess.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I'll ask him this week.
What do you want your program to do?
I haven't really figured it out that much yet, but maybe make like excuse me, maybe make like a playlist, but that's based off like the local storage and not really using a Spotify account.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, something like that.
Could throw in some visualizations or something based on the music if you want to be creative.
Yeah, I'll probably think about that.
Fun times. All right. Who's next?
Go ahead, Maxwell, if you've got something.
I was thinking of just figuring out how to add in some CSS stuff to my first project, to the first thing I made for the class, the 2048 thing. Do you think that would be enough of a project?
Well, yeah, I mean, reading his email, it sounded like he sort of moderated what he was saying about utility early on and said it's much more important that you're demonstrating the ability to use the CSS. So I think that if you, I mean, it's, you know, a game is a relatively useful thing in terms of, you know, it serves a purpose. People like entertainment and widely. I think if you can show that you're using CSS very effectively, it's probably fine.
So if I could give it like some colors and transitions.
Yeah, like, you know, you could define the classes for each of the powers of 2 to be their own colors, right? You could change the class on the element to have it automatically go to that. And then you could define like transformations and animations to do things like fade the colors from one to another when you do the summation, or to move them from position to position. You can do a lot. Yeah. I think that would be a really good proving ground for a lot of different CSS stuff.
Might be tricky to program, but I can probably pull it off.
Yeah.
Problem is I still have a couple of things I need to, a couple of topics I need to pass off, and I don't think I can do that with this game.
Like what?
Object creation functions, inheritance properties, methods, instantiation, and local storage API, storing and retrieving simple data arrays, associative arrays, and objects.
You could definitely do objects, because all you need to do for objects is create a variable and then store a few you know, named properties inside of it. So you could have an object that stores the board game, or an object that stores the game state, or
maybe
stores the options. You have a lot of different ways that you could incorporate that one.
Might be able to pull something off.
Yeah.
And then have to overhaul the whole logic of the game, though, but I probably should anyway.
Well, I mean, you could sort of just build like a save game function, and then you could suck the state off of the existing board state and then push it into a JSON file. And basically, when you instantiate all the stuff that was in the JSON file, you're making it into an object, or you could be making it into an object. So that would be pretty easy. And then, did you say APIs was the other one?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I would do maybe like look for like a math API, and even though it's a little contrived, you could do something that you know, like gives you some statistics or whatever about the game. I don't know, because you can collect data as you go through the gameplay, and then you can use some kind of API to process the data that you've collected and give you things like you know, averages, or
I'm still kind of confused as to what we're supposed to do for APIs. Are we just supposed to store something on, like store something in local storage, or are we supposed to do something with some other site, or what?
So there is a local storage API, and that you're supposed to use at some point to demonstrate that you can store things locally on the client machine. And then you're also supposed to use some sort of third-party API separate.
I haven't seen anything mention a third-party API thing.
I thought that was. Let me look that up real quick. I'm pretty sure that was one of them.
The only place I see API on here is when it says local storage API.
Yeah.
The third-party API that he is looking for is basically covered under the AJAX calls. So
Yeah.
Ajax was.
he's looking for you to use a massive library, a massive JSON library through an API, through a third-party API, and incorporate that using your AJAX.
Yeah, I was looking at like the XML HTTP request to consume a JSON web service. I think that that's kind of what he was talking about there. Right, Brooks?
That's from my understanding. The local storage stuff, like that's not as complicated or as massive. I don't think.
That's
Um,
dead.
my right now, all my application does is just store locally movies that the person searches for.
Right.
Because all I've got, oh, the only topics I have left are the object creation and the local storage API one. So do I need to do a one of those?
Do we have to incorporate all of these into our final project? I thought we did. I don't know.
As far as I understand, yes.
Because I can implement local storage for like a save cam feature. Probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that would be easy.
But I don't know how I could use a third-party API for this.
Well, okay, so there are a few like third-party, or not third-party. There's some APIs that are math-based. So Math.js is one of them. And so if you wanted to, I mean, like I said, it would be a little contrived, but you could do that. Oh, here's a good one. So there's a numbers API. It's numbersapi.com. And numbers API will serve up trivia about specific numbers. So you could say like when they achieve like, you know, the next power of 2, you could like display information about that number using the numbers API. Send you the link.
If that's all I got.
Yeah, there's a link to it. It's pretty easy. And they've got there the URL structure that you need to put, and what type of trivia you're looking for. And you know, that's all you need to do is just have like a little text box that talks about the number. And you know, you don't have to just do that power of 2. You could do like the sum of all of the numbers on the board, or you know, some random whatever random thing that you want to do.
It would probably make a little more sense to do the powers of 2.
Right.
Yeah, I added some sounds and some canvas to that program already.
Oh, cool. So I just looked up 2048, and it says 2048 is a boring number. No, it's not. Yeah. Let's see. 2048 is a boring number. Yeah.
How do you?
Oh, 2048 is the smallest non-trivial 11 power. There you go. August 9th is the day in 1993 that the Liberal Democratic Party of Japan loses a 38-year hold on national leadership. I don't know why 2048 came up with that, but whatever.
They have a bunch of different ones.
Yeah.
They randomize them, so they're not the same every time.
Very interesting.
So I guess I can probably do something with that.
Yeah, I'll give you something to go on anyway.
One project to work on to finish off all my categories and do the project with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Cool. Yeah, of course we would love to see it and play it when you, whenever you want to share it.
Well, it's on my GitHub, so there's a link to it from my GitHub thing.
Okay, cool.
Who's next?
Rex, I think you're it, buddy.
Okay. I haven't really changed much. I haven't had time, but basically I am right now trying to figure out how to clear the local storage when the tab is closed. Basically, what I really have changed is when a movie is entered, it goes into this array. It's stored locally. Not quite sure what I'm going to do with that information yet, but I'm thinking about adding another button to where they can view, kind of retrieve this information, put it in list form with links, and then they can go back to whatever movie they've already viewed. So right now I'm just trying to figure out how to clear this local storage after the tab's closed. So
Cool. I think you can do that on an unload.
yeah, I've noticed that. I found that.
Using session storage instead of local storage does that, doesn't it?
That would fit in my where exactly to put that in my JavaScript file.
I think it clears when you close the tab if you use session storage instead of local storage.
Yeah, there is a way to do that. Yeah, I know session storage will work that way. I know local storage will work that way as well. It's just where to include that function. There's a on unload.
Yeah, and I think if you you could do that where you put it on the window through DOM, and I think you could also do it in the body tag. I think you could do an let's see, on unload equals, and then give it the function in JavaScript and have it point back.
Yeah, I'll figure it out.
Cool.
So that's what it looks like when it's not in mobile, which is not good, but not good practice at least. But I don't really care. It's just a mobile app. So yeah, that's pretty much what I got going down right now.
That's cool. I'm going to throw one on you guys because I got asked to do something today at work that I don't know exactly how I'm going to pull it off, but they wanted a timer. This should be pretty easy, but I just don't know if I can turn it around in one day. A timer that will count down the available time for a speaker at board meetings, and then give them a warning when their time is done, and then you know, cut them off or whatever at the end of their allotted time. I think it should be pretty simple, pretty straightforward, but it might be a little ambitious to do all that in because I won't have even a full work day to do it. We'll need it like in the afternoon tomorrow.
What domain does this need to be in?
What do you mean domain?
What environment?
Oh, I was just going to do it just JavaScript.
Oh, so you get to pick whatever, however you implement this?
Well, I mean, I don't have total freedom because, well, there's previous conflict of interest stuff that I have to worry about if I do anything that's like developer, like requires a developer account or anything like that. So JavaScript is kind of where it's at, I think.
There's plenty of, there's some timer functions in jQuery if you want
Oh, sweet.
to check those out.
Okay. Yeah, that definitely could be helpful. Yeah, so I don't know. I might try to pull it off. I already found them a third-party product just because they were like, well, really they came to me asking what products are out there that will do this, and I said, well, I don't know, but I could look them up for you, or I could write you one. Just tell me what you want. And they said, well, before you write one, find one for us, and that way, you know, if your time constraints or whatever don't let you finish it, then you don't have to worry about it. So that's kind of where I'm at. It should be fun though if I get to do it. High visibility.
Cool. Anybody have anything else?
Yeah, so since this class is pretty much like developing applications for mobile websites, do we really need to take into account the responsiveness of like, you know, like of the width of the device, for example, like on a PC versus on a phone?
I personally have only customized this for mobile. I haven't concerned myself with a laptop or a desktop. I can show you how I've approached that.
Okay.
So basically, I've got two CSS files. I've got one for laptop and one for my main, which is the mobile. So what I've done is I've just set up this media tag and just set it up for the dimensions of the iPhone 6, roughly. Anyway, where'd it go? Anyway, those are what I found for the dimensions, and then basically that's just I've just used all of my CSS to format just to that. So when I test it, I just test it in mobile view. So
okay.
so like if I turn this off, this is what it shouldn't look like this, but it does. This is what it looks like for laptop or PC. So when I go to mobile, it incorporates all my CSS. So basically, if you just embody everything that you have for CSS inside that media only tag, and then customize your CSS to fit that, then you should be fine.
Oh, okay.
That's pretty cool.
You can do that for multiple devices. So if you plan on it being used for multiple devices, then you can just customize the CSS for each device. Some of these devices might share the same exact settings for your CSS. Some might not. I just separated them out because I wasn't concerned about laptop or desktop computer.
And he said that if there was a specific device or browser or whatever that we should use, that he should use to test it, that we should just tell him that, right?
Yeah, just inform him. Just let him know when you submit the stuff each week, or at least for the next 2 weeks. Just let him know what browser to use, and then you can tell him just go to the iPhone 6.
Right. That's pretty cool.
Or whatever phone you want to do. It doesn't look terrible on my phone. I have a Samsung, but the dimensions aren't exactly right. So,
do you guys know how to do that in Chrome, David and Maxwell, where you go into the inspector and you switch it to a mobile device screen format?
I don't know.
Yeah. So
Was that an I don't know or?
I know.
Yeah, I don't know how to do that.
Oh, okay. So if you guys can still see my screen, right?
Uh-huh.
So when you open up your page, you right click, and then you click inspect, and then what you'll see is this. This will just pop up, and there's this button right here. If you're in Chrome, there's this button here. It says toggle device toolbar, and then you can click that, and it'll format everything to the mobile device. And then here, you can change the device that you want to view. You can also add a device. So you could just give it a device name. If you know the dimensions of the device, you can add it, and then you can format your page to that.
yeah, it's very, very helpful.
So if we were able to use Bootstrap, you wouldn't have to worry about it.
That's true too. Right on. Well,
Does that make sense, Maxwell?
Yeah, I found it.
Okay, cool.
are you normally a Chrome user?
Yeah.
All right, cool. It's a lot more powerful than you realize if you don't know about that.
hmm I've been using the developer tools.
Cool. So you
Not
kind of
expert or anything, but I know how to use them.
yeah, that's good. Good. Well, gentlemen, you ready to call it?
Okay.
Yeah.